This episode of the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast is brought to you by Yabla. Yabla provides language immersion through engaging videos for Spanish, English, Italian, French, German, and Chinese language learners. Yabla features authentic content by native speakers, custom playback, subtitles, learning games, and flashcards. Yabla is the premier language learning video platform with tools to enhance conversational understanding, such as the patented dictation game Scribe. Now, if you haven't tried out Scribe, I definitely recommend you check it out. It is a game changer when it comes to improving your listening comprehension, and it's the perfect way to practice active listening. Stream authentic shows and music you enjoy while you learn at the same time. Give Yabla a try today using this special link, yabla.com/salsa. That's yabla.com/salsa.
Bienvenidos! Welcome to the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast, the show for Spanish learners that love music, travel, and culture. Close your grammar textbooks, shut down the language apps, and open your ears to how Spanish is spoken in the real world. Let us show you how to go from beginner to bilingual. Here is your host, certified language coach, Tamara Marie.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Welcome to episode 38 of the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast. In this episode, we're going to chat with Kyle Kuzman from Hear, Listen, Speak. Kyle has been learning languages through music and conversations for years, and he also teaches multiple languages online. I had the opportunity to meet Kyle at Langfest in Montreal back in 2018, where we both presented workshops on learning languages through music. Kyle has also been a presenter at the Polyglot Conference, and he just has a wealth of knowledge about language learning and some great insights on how to make language learning fun. Kyle hopes to inspire as many people as possible to believe that everyone is capable of learning any language while having fun and doing things you love. So with that, here is the conversation with Kyle. Hola, Kyle. Bienvenido. Welcome to the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast.
Hola, Tamara. ¿Qué tal? Happy to be here.
So, Kyle, can you first start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what languages you speak and just kind of how you got started learning languages in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm Kyle Kuzman. I was born in around Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so southeastern PA. And I started languages. My school, I was lucky enough to have German and French as of the first grade, but I only really got started learning seriously for real when I went on an exchange to Germany in 10th grade. And there I was immersed and very challenged because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't understand anything. 10 years of German class and school have failed me. Why can't I understand what anyone's saying around me? So I desperately Googled after a month or so. I was getting really depressed about not being able to understand people there and really have a good conversation about what I wanted to talk about, you know? So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna Google how to actually learn to speak a language. And I stumbled across Fluent in 3 months, Benny Lewis's blog, which is a huge inspiration to me. So I took him very, very seriously and religiously. So I was like, all right, no more English. I cut out all the English from my life. I was like, no more English shows, no more music. I hardly communicated with friends and family back in the US. I started listening to German music. My favorite band, one of my favorite bands of all time, is called The Wise Guys. It's this 5-man German a cappella group. So I just listened to them 24/7. I watched How I Met Your Mother dubbed in German instead of English. And that's how I really got started. So after a really difficult first month there, I then, after taking this vow of no English and really fighting to speak German and really going as hard as possible, I was able to get to a really good level after my next 4 months there. And then that was such a really amazing and life-changing experience for me that I was then inspired to learn Brazilian Portuguese, because growing up, all of my best friends in school had been Brazilians and I really liked them. So I was like, well, they've all moved back to Brazil somehow all at the same time, so I guess I'll have to learn Portuguese and go visit them. So I took that on as a senior project in high school. And after that, I took a full gap year where I continued learning. I started on French and spent some time in France. I had a lot of good Hungarian friends, just thanks to a really lucky chance and a great trip to Hungary. So I decided I had to learn Hungarian as well, and did the Add One challenge, if anyone's heard of that. It's like a 90-day language challenge. And I did that twice before going to Hungary, and then spent more time. I just went back to Germany and back to Brazil in that year. So since then, I've been working on those languages and just making sure that I continue as much as possible. I'm studying as many as I can, always continuing to learn. And I go back whenever I can. And I'm trying to go very deep into the languages that I speak. Spanish is my most recent one that I'm really working on hard. I don't want to learn like all of the languages. I mean, I would love to, right? Wouldn't we all? But
yeah.
I try.
The polyglot dream.
Yeah, exactly. I want to learn, gotta catch them all, right? But it's like traveling. Like, I don't want to country hop. I don't want to go to Europe for a month and like see all of the big capitals. I want to go somewhere for a month and do like a work away, like a work exchange or woofing, and just live really like more deeply in one place and do like day trips and like slowly expand and get to know the area and the people and the language, so that you're really a part of the community instead of just touristing and coming to stay for a week or like 2 days or something at a time.
Right.
Yeah, so for now that's where I'm at.
Now, I've been meaning to ask you this because I know you've talked a little bit about just wanting to get deeper into your languages and not just sort of dabble in everything. And I'm curious to know about your experience at Middlebury College. I've met a few people that learned different languages there before, and I've heard the program can be pretty intense. And it's really like an immersive experience, even though it's in the U.S. So can you tell us, for people that don't know, what is the language program at Middlebury and how has your experience been there?
Yeah, so I'm at Middlebury College, which is in northern Vermont, and they're really famous for their language schools, which are in the summer. And I actually haven't done one of those because in the summer I'm generally traveling or studying abroad in a different country. So I take languages here just in the academic year in classes, which is pretty different than the language schools in the summer, which are just these, so in the US on Middlebury's campus in Vermont, and also they have a campus in Monterey, California. And so they do like, I think it's a 6-week program where you sign up and then you get 24/7, you sign this thing called a language pledge, which makes it actually a crime to talk English. So
Wow.
if they catch you speaking English 3 times, they will kick you out. So it's very, very intense,
Wow.
very hardcore. And I wouldn't recommend it for people who've never learned any of a certain language. I would recommend it more for people who have learned some, who have maybe taken a year, 2 or 3 of language classes and are really looking to improve. If you don't want to actually go to the other country and have a really more academic, more intensive, like you have, I think maybe like 4 hours of class a day plus homework, and then tons of activities. Like they have everything from designing and building the set and putting on a whole opera performance in German to like soccer games and concerts and meals and all kinds of activities you can imagine. So trying to give you the full 24/7 immersion experience, but on a college campus in the US.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I've heard, so you're mentioning it's more for people who have already had some language learning experience.
Oh, you can enter with 0. I just wouldn't recommend it, having already had the experience of full immersion in Germany and then Brazil and Hungary, because it's really, really, really difficult. Like, don't get me wrong, it's crushing. Like, it's one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but definitely the most valuable as well and the most rewarding, but not for the faint of heart. And it is a lot of time and a lot of energy. It's just incredibly exhausting. I know they have some people who leave the language schools actually because they just burn out emotionally and they just can't handle it anymore. So they'll actually leave and go home or have to talk to a counselor in English. So I appreciate what they do with the language pledge, but it's also very, very hardcore. Sometimes it is good to have a break from full immersion 24/7, you know?
Yeah, so it sounds like a basic training in the military for languages.
It's essentially like a boot camp. Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much, yeah. But I have heard very good things. Like, it's a really amazing experience. You bond with everyone. You learn so much in that time, and you can basically go in and come out conversationally fluent in 6 weeks, which is amazing. Wow. but definitely like you need to commit fully for those weeks, and bring your whole self, all of your energy, all of your time. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for that perspective. Because I've heard about it, and I think the one person I know that that actually told me about his experience at the program, he was learning Russian, and he said the reason why he went is because he felt like he was at an intermediate level, but he was a little stuck, and he was still making certain mistakes, and so he said that he really appreciated it, but he did say it was tough too. He said, he was almost in tears.
I've been there multiple times.
Yeah, but it actually helped him overcome all the mistakes he was making in Russian. So he really was fortunate for it. But yeah, pretty intense.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you're on the infamous plateau of the intermediate level,
right.
It's definitely helpful to push you over that bump and really improve. Especially a lot of people do it after taking like 101 level classes. They'll take the summer school, which skips them a full year of language classes in college. So they can replace like a full 200 level of like full year, and then you're qualified for the 300 level, and you can study abroad sooner. So a lot of people do it for that reason. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about hear, listen, speak, because I know you're passionate about learning languages through conversations and also through music. As you mentioned, when you were in Germany, you were listening to German music, and I know you've done that with the other languages that you've learned as well. So can you just talk a little bit about what motivated you to start Hear, Listen, Speak?
Yeah, of course. So that's a funny story. Actually, I woke up in the middle of the night one time, and I was like, I'm getting to the end of my college career, and so I know that I need to be looking for some kind of steady income source afterwards. And I was like, so I want to start some kind of language learning venture to help people learn with music, because that's what's really always been so much fun and so effective for me in my life. And I was like, okay, so the first thing I need is a good name. I wonder what I could call it. And I was kind of drifting in and out of sleep, and then all of a sudden it came to me, and I was like, I'll call it Hear, Listen, Speak, but hear spelled H-E-R-E, like, so it will be a pun, so it will be like memorable. And the story behind that name is like, you have to be here, you have to show up and be present before you can really listen deeply to people and attentively, so that you can truly begin to understand what they're saying. And only after you've completed those two steps in that order are you really ready to start speaking well. So that's my philosophy. Like, if you really love a language and you want to learn it and communicate with people who speak it and live and travel in that country, then you're really going to have to listen to a lot of it. You're going to have to hear things that you really enjoy. You're going to have to like dance along, bob your head along, start singing along to your favorite music, watch your favorite kind of like shows and podcasts, YouTube videos, anything that really like incites and inspires you personally. That's what you really should be listening to in the language you want to learn. And the more of that you get, the more excited and fun it will be for you, the quicker you'll learn, and the better you'll be able to speak afterwards. So that's why I started the site.
Well, what kind of things can we find if we go to your website? What kind of content are you providing right now?
Yeah, so for now, the website's a little sparse because I've been very busy this semester. My Facebook page is a lot more active, so just at Hear, Listen, Speak, H-E-R-E. And so I'll share my personal learning process. So my favorite songs, recordings of me, like when I have the lyrics up and I'm learning to sing along, so you can see exactly like what my screen looks like. I use this fantastic app called Musics Match, like Musics with an X, that gives you automatically scrolled lyrics for like so many songs in so many languages, which connects with like Spotify, Apple Music. So that's super helpful so that you can listen to it and hear and see the words at the same time. So I like to put out like little guides of how I do that, and how you can integrate that into your own life and your own language learning. Whenever I'm like learning a new song or a new language or practicing, sometimes I'll just put it up on like Facebook Live so you can follow along and see what I'm doing. Yeah, I just try to kind of share my personal process so that everyone can see how that works for me, and then work on and see how that could be integrated into their own language learning.
So my next question is about actually learning pronunciation. So I found that many English speakers that are learning Spanish or other languages, especially with Spanish, they have the false assumption that just because the letters in English and Spanish look the same, that they're actually pronounced the same.
Yeah. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, and it can be really difficult to learn pronunciation of letters, especially when we think we already know how they're pronounced when we're reading in Spanish. So what's the best way to break that pattern? And how have you found that learning languages through music really helps to improve pronunciation?
Yeah, really good question. So that's a huge struggle for everyone when you're learning a language with the same alphabet and they use different letters for different sounds, and some of the letters are totally silent and don't make any sense, and then people will talk really fast and it'll sound totally different, like unlike anything you've ever heard, just this random jumble of foreign sounds just coming at your ears super fast. So for me, what's really helped me is to really don't even read the words when you're starting to listen to music. Like at the beginning, you just like pop open Spotify, search like Spanish alternative, Spanish pop, Spanish hip hop, or like whatever your favorite genres happen to be. Talk to like your friends. You can just Google it, like find some stuff that you enjoy and just start listening to it without really wondering or bothering how it's spelled, because you don't need it. Like, how did you learn your native language, right? You just heard it all around you. Everyone spoke it. You heard it for years, and then you started babbling. I think more people should like goo goo gaga in their foreign languages, because it's really helpful. Like I'll just walk around. I'll be in the shower. It'll be like like trying to get these sounds perfect, because I want them to sound like the people I'm listening to, the people who are speaking to me. So the more you can just enjoy letting the music and the sounds wash over you and just listen very attentively, and then think like, this sounds different. Like, I wonder what are they doing with their tongue there? Because it's a very exact science, you know? Like, if it sounds different or if it sounds off or if there's an accent or if something's really hard to pronounce, you can figure out, like, you can look it up. You can find guides online. There's something called the IPA, like the International Phonetic Alphabet. That's pretty helpful. You can see like, wow. So the sound when like Americans say like butter, the r, it's not a T or a D. You don't say butter and you don't say butter. You say butter. And that is the same sound as in the Spanish, like pero. Like the Spanish R, it's called the tapped R, pero, butter, pero, butter. So that's like a hidden sound that's the same in Spanish, but we just don't write it the same way in English. So it might seem like really challenging at first, but there are a lot of things like that. You can be like, so I actually can do that. The rolling the R, I know a lot of people have trouble with, and that's something that it's actually a very different sound than the little tapped R, but you can get away with it by just saying the tapped R and everyone will understand you. Basically, anything is better than the R, like the American R.
Right.
Arrow. Yeah. So just remember that. Like, when you see an R in Spanish, think like double T or D in English, like better, butter, batter. It's really the same sound. So that's one like huge revelation. And then, the more you can practice like listening and trying to repeat what you hear, the better you'll be able to train your ear and really tune into those sounds.
So would you say that, because I know you're a musician, right? So I know I've seen you play guitar, and I've also met some other folks that I've interviewed on this podcast that learn languages through music, and they are also musicians or vocalists. But what do you say for people like me who do not have a good singing voice, who are not musicians, who may go to your Facebook and see you singing along and go, "Wow, that's really cool for Kyle, but I can't sing." And I don't know how to play the guitar, right? What would you say for those of us who are more, music novices, for how we can approach it? Like, is it something we should still try out, even if we don't feel like we're confident in our musical abilities?
Oh yeah, good question. I think everyone should just do this for fun if they enjoy music. Like, whenever you find a song you enjoy and you want to dance to it, you want to maybe sing along to it, just do it in the shower, do it in your car, do it when you're not around other people. This is for you. Like, you're not learning to perform. You're learning just to have fun and enjoy yourself. Like, I do strum along and I sing along with my playing, but that's not really the motivation for you. The motivation is just really loving the music I hear and wanting to sing along. So the most important thing is just like, this is for you. You're not doing this to be around people. Like, you're not doing it to be a beautiful, like perfectly trained opera singer. You're just doing it to enjoy jamming along with your favorite music in another language and just let that experience and let that fun help you to really work your mouth and your tongue and your lips around these new sounds that are different from the ones in your native language.
Yeah, and that was kind of my secret too. Like when I because I don't have a great singing voice, but when I was in the car, oh yeah, I'd be singing. No one else is.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody else can hear me. And it actually did improve my pronunciation without me even recognizing it. And I didn't notice until people would say to me like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm from the U.S." They go, "But no, where's your family from?" And I'd say, "Well, from the U.S." They go, "But okay, so, but you don't have no one in your family is like from Dominican Republic or from Puerto Rico?" No, and they're like, "But why do you have this accent? Because you don't talk like an American." And I would always take that as a compliment.
Oh yeah, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, but it didn't come from me studying the IPA or learning, pronunciation secrets or anything. It literally just came from me listening to music that I loved, singing along with my horrible singing voice when no one was watching.
Don't say that.
And but it is true. It kind of naturally helps you. And I'm all for ways about learning that are natural and don't feel like you're in school.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like my site's tagline. It's like language learning should be personal, natural, and fun. Like if you're doing anything that feels like work or feels like studying or schoolwork, just don't do it. Like if you don't enjoy what you're learning, if you don't enjoy the music or something, just change it up. Like find something new, find something that really excites and inspires you. Like you can make a new playlist, explore other people's playlists, leave it to the side, maybe come back later. But yeah, that's a really good point. Like none of this is really conscious, right? Like if you're really trying super hard, it might actually be hurting you because you're gonna be like stressed, like, oh man, did I nail it yet? Like, am I getting it perfect? But really you should just be kind of like jamming out and just allowing the learning to happen by having fun and trying to like practice singing along with the favorite chorus of your favorite song.
Right, definitely. And definitely I always recommend the chorus too because it has a lot of repetition. So you hear the same words and same sounds over and over again.
Oh yeah, repetition and rhymes are my jam. Like they're the best way and the most fun way to learn any language, anything really. Like if you need to remember something, make that into a rhyme and start repeating it to yourself. Put it to a beat, set that to music. Okay, and so switching gears a little bit. Now I always like to ask guests this question because like you talked about, language learning is about, being able to communicate with people, not performing. And I really believe like getting over the fear of making mistakes or saying the wrong thing is crucial to really getting better when you're learning a language. Yeah, and I think sometimes for listeners, hearing about other people's experiences can really help them see that, everyone goes through it and it's really part of the language learning journey. So with that said, can you tell us a story about your funniest or most embarrassing moment learning languages, whether it's something funny you said or something misunderstood? There are far too many. Yeah, so probably the one that always comes to mind is this one time I was in Brazil. So I had just shown up in Brazil. I basically grew up with this Brazilian family. Like in high school, I lived at their house a lot of the time, just like really good, close friends. And so they were really the inspiration for me to learn Portuguese. So I had been listening to a lot of Brazilian music, reading children's books. Get like the audio with the text is really great. Little audio books, just simple stuff. Just start out small and just rhymes, songs, poems, all that good stuff. And so I had been preparing and training my ear and like trying to build that kind of phonetic base, like so I could at least be familiar with and know what it sounds like. So I got to Brazil and I had been there maybe 4 or 5 days and I was very tired. I was like, in the full immersion, I couldn't understand anything. I was like, okay, I need to really work on this. So my dad, my Brazilian dad, Thomas, asked me, he was like, so Kyle, why is your t-shirt that weird kind of pink? And I was like, and he said, porque sua camiseta é rosa. And camiseta is t-shirt. You also say camisa or camisinha. And camisinha, if you're a Spanish speaker, you'd be like, maybe that means like a small shirt. Unfortunately, it means condom. So literally like a little cute shirt is the same as condom. But listen to the difference between these two words, camiseta, camisinha. It's very small. It's like a 2-letter difference. So of course, me in my exhausted state, having just arrived in Brazil, I was like, minha camisinha, and I told this whole story. I struggled through for probably like 5 minutes long. I was like, so it was in Germany. I was with my host families, and it used to be white, but then my German host dad washed my white condom with a new red condom, and it turned into a pink condom, and he just like looked at me with this strange expression, just like cocking his head, and he didn't say a word. He didn't stop me. He just let me tell this story, repeating the wrong word again and again. And at the end, I was like, "Oh, that was the wrong word, wasn't it?" He laughs. He goes, "Yep, yes, it was." So I will never forget that, and I will never again mix up those two words. It can be embarrassing at first, but now I can take it and I can use it as a joke. Like I can intentionally say that to Brazilians, and they'll be like, "You know what you just said, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I know what I just said. There's this one time, and let me tell you how I learned the difference." So like when you make something like that, when that happens, try to take it and use it as then a positive, funny story to tell and good learning experience. It's like, no, it's not it happens to everyone. It's always funny, and it's always like, it's never a bad thing. And the more you laugh about it and the stranger and weirder it is, the more you'll never forget it and the more you can learn from it.
Okay, so Kyle, now it's time for our quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions in español, so this will help you practice your Spanish. Entonces, vamos a empezar con pregunta número 1. ¿Cuál es tu canción favorita en español?
Voy a decir Bajo el agua, porque es una canción muy de Manuel Medrano. Se llama Bajo el agua y la canté recientemente con guitarra, pero acabé cantando en portuñol, que es la mezcla de portugués y español, porque y me lo olvidé las palabras, entonces estaba cantando como portuñol es una lengua muy bella, ¿no? Porque aprendí portugués antes de español, entonces es muy difícil para mí quedar con el español y no como recaer en el portugués, ¿sabes?
Sí, yo entiendo perfectamente. Yo tengo el mismo problema. Y la segunda es, ¿cuál es tu palabra favorita en español?
¿Sabe cómo decir tongue twister en español?
Trabalenguas.
Trabalenguas, sí, gracias. Entonces, trabalenguas, cosas así con 2 palabras juntas, interesantes, me encantan.
3. ¿Cuál fue la última cosa que leíste, miraste o escuchaste en español?
Buena pregunta. Estoy viendo Narcos recientemente para prepararme para mi examen final en español.
¿Pero entonces, cuál? ¿Narcos México, el nuevo, o Narcos de original. Pablo Escobar?
Escobar, Colombia.
Okay.
Sí, el original.
Sí, eso me gusta también. Y número 4, ok, saca tu teléfono y traduce el último texto que recibiste al español.
Yo también te quiero a mi novia.
Qué bueno. Precioso.
Sí.
Y la última pregunta es, ¿qué cosa crees que todo el mundo debería hacer por lo menos una vez en la vida?
Buena pregunta. Aprender por lo menos una otra lengua que no sea su lengua materna. Porque puedes decirme que la ciencia de raquetas o cual que sea es el sujeto más difícil del mundo, más complicado, pero todavía está en inglés, no está en su lengua materna o en alemán, lo que sea. Pero creo que aprender una otra lengua es básicamente tiene que pensar y exprimirse de otra manera, ¿no? Entonces es una cambia básica de su vida. Es muy diferente de ver luchar con estas, cómo voy a decir y cómo voy a exprimir las cosas más básicas y más importantes en mi vida en una otra lengua. Entonces, sí, para mí es de lejos es el más importante.
Gracias, Kyle. Thank you for participating in the quickfire round. So as we wrap up, do you have anything coming up that you want to let everyone know about and let folks know how they can reach out to you on social media?
Oh, yeah. So on Facebook, I'm just at Hear, Listen, Speak, again, HERE. And then you can find me on like Instagram at Kyle Kuzman. That's Kuzman. That's my last name. I also teach lessons, so I teach like any of the languages I speak. My best language is still German, so you can find lesson opportunities, and if you want to have like private, like one-on-one Skype lessons with me, so you can just shoot me an email there. Yeah, so German, English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, even some basic Hungarian, which I think is a very, very beautiful and underappreciated language. Very logical, and it's one of my favorites. So
very cool. All right. So with that, Kyle, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast.
Of course. Thanks so much for inviting me. Good to be here and talk to you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kyle and that you really are inspired to learn Spanish using content that you enjoy. My goal with interviews like this is to inspire you so that no matter where you are in your language learning journey, you remember that it is possible for you to reach fluency. My number one takeaway from Kyle was how important it is to really have fun while you're learning languages, not to take yourself so seriously. And also, I like his emphasis on paying attention to the sounds that you hear and not necessarily the letters that you see. Because sometimes reading leads to pronunciation errors when we're not exactly sure how the sounds of the language that we're learning should sound, right? So I really like his emphasis on listening and paying attention to the sounds. And don't forget, if you want to find some content that's fun and interesting for Spanish language learners like you, you can find anything from TV series to music to travel videos and more on the site Yabla. So check out yabla.com/salsa to try out the service for free. That's yabla.com/salsa. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Next week, I'll be interviewing Andrea Alger from Spanish Land School. And we'll be talking about 3 things you need to do if you really want to get to the next level with your Spanish. So if you're at that infamous intermediate plateau and you want to get to the advanced level with your Spanish, or if you're stuck at the beginner level and you want to get firmly into the intermediate level of Spanish, you won't want to miss this next episode. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you'll be the first to know when the next episode of the podcast is available. Y la entrevista con Andrea es 100% en español. As always, I hope something you heard today will take you one step closer on your journey from Spanish beginner to bilingual. Que tengas un buen día. Adiós.
Thank you for listening to the Learn Spanish Con Salsa podcast at learnspanishconsalsa.com.